We are
because
live. Oh,
we are
goodness me.
live.
We have 36 people ready. Goodness me.
There you go. And it's a further exam. 36. How did that happen? And, interfaces are always, hello, everybody.
Just carrying on a conversation here. We've already
Bravo,
started.
here we are.
Yeah.
It's so good to see all of you joining today. I'm Barbara Tien with Projectkin, and I am joined today in this very special Friday morning live stream for California anyway, in a Friday evening live stream. Joining me from just outside London, near what I think of as the 100-acre wood, is our very own Emma Cox. It's delightful to see you again, Emma, this evening, and tell us about what's up ahead and what's going on for you in a lot of excitement in the pre-Roots Tech season.
Oh, there's so much going on. So I'll start with the next Emma Explores, and we'll talk about Roots Tech and bits and pieces afterwards. So next Thursday is Emma Explores, and I've chosen military ancestors for this particular one. And I'm fortunate there are various people within my wider family. Some people I'm actually related to, and some people are relations of relations. So I started with some people who are siblings, brothers and sisters, out in New Zealand, and they were in World War One. And there were two brothers who actually went to war. One actually didn't. He stayed at home, although he was in the reserves. And their sister was a nurse. And so I've managed to find out about them. There's quite a lot of information available. And unfortunately, the three who actually served all died for various different reasons, either in service or the Spanish flu, which was at that time, 1918. Unfortunately, that wiped out a lot of different people. So I'm going to find out a little bit more about them and tell you all their stories that I can discover. So that's one part of it. Another one is the guy called Hugh Trenchard. Now, he's a very significant person in the Royal Air Force in this country. He's known as the father of the RAF. And he's my fourth cousin 3 times removed. And if anybody was listening to a talk that I did a few months ago on the Upcott family, who were based around the Exeter area, and they're the ones who are all in the cloth industry, he is an Upcott descendant as well. So he grew up in Taunton, which is where my great-grandfather grew up. Apparently he didn't do brilliantly at school, and he ended up going into the army, and he ended up being wounded incredibly badly. He lost a lung and he was paralyzed, and he was shipped off to Switzerland. Somebody paid for him to go to a sanatorium in Switzerland. And basically he then went bobsleighing. He had an accident, and lo and behold, he could walk again. What a story. And so I need to find out a few more details, but I just thought that's brilliant.
Not to get into abilities and whatnot, but I just think there are so many people in history who did poorly in school, and then they go on to these incredible physical acts of feat. I mean, at least in my family, there's a lot of combinations of skill sets that lead to dyslexia combined with tremendous physical talents. And, they become pilots. They become, oh, yeah, I can walk after all.
So when he could walk again, he actually went back. And then he was appointed by Churchill to be one of the very senior people. And he ended up setting up the RAF. He set up the training college for the cadets. He set up the training college for the engineers and all that sort of thing. And he basically was the father of strategic bombing, I think, was one of the things he was.
But can't you see this person having... this is a time when the Air Force is completely new. Yep. I mean, planes flying are still new. And how to do that in combat was just a whole mind shift. What an amazing person.
What he realized, it all depended on having mechanics, being able to service planes, and there weren't any in World War One. And so that's where he started, right, I need this training set up for mechanics. So he did that as well. So, and he basically fought his corner, and he wasn't given very much money to set it up and everything. So, but he did incredibly in the RAF. It wouldn't be what it is today without him.
Yeah. No, I mean, I say that this is a tribute to my nephew, who is struggled with dyslexia, struggled with school, and yet went on to be jet mechanic and now an operations head. And that kind of 3-dimensional thinking is like what being really good at words and numbers just doesn't prepare you for. It's
Mm.
just a whole different part of the brain. What a thrill to discover. And then there's more. There's more in your family. Tell us more.
Well, I haven't decided who I want to put in there as well. I'm thinking it might be somebody from Canada, so the English and Canadian side of it, and I want to put in something in there about World War II. So, and just to tell people how you can find records, what sort of records are available, where they are, and how that can help give you more details. Now, I know, unfortunately, if you want someone's military service in this country, you'll probably be waiting a long time. The wait was about a year. You put a
Oh,
request
wow.
in and they've got a big backlog. So that's for formal military service. But when you're looking
Mm,
online on sites like Ancestry and things like that, you can quite often find someone's military service there. And it'll tell you, for example, what
right.
ships someone served on, if they
Right,
were in the
right,
Navy, or sometimes it will tell you what medals they won, if they
right.
were injured, if they were naughty, if they actually got
Merits.
penalties for doing things. And so you can find out all sorts of amazing things. And you can also find out people's physical characteristics. So it will tell you when they joined how tall they were, what color their hair was, their eyes, their complexion, whether they had any identifying marks like scars or tattoos and that sort of thing. So, and also people signed the attestation papers and things like that to say that this was all true. So you've got a real insight into somebody if you can find that information.
Right. So you're saying that uh, some of this information is already available on services like Ancestry. Is that
Yeah.
through Fold 3 or is that only an American thing? I know
It's not,
Fold 3 is a service of it.
I think some of it is in Fold 3, but some of it
Uh-huh.
is directly in Ancestry itself. It
Right.
really depends on what you're looking for and who it is.
Yeah. And then there's another whole set of reports and things that are what you have to order separately. Is that right?
Yes. And then you'll get
Right.
somebody's service record. Now, what they also do is they redact it. So that's where they were, if it's sensitive information for any reason, your ancestor might have been a spy, and so you wouldn't necessarily be given the information exactly what they did. So they would black it out,
Mm.
and they
Mhm.
do that generally pretty well. I know that some of the recent information that's been redacted hasn't been done properly, but basically you're given a certain amount of information and you have to prove that the person is related to you if you want to actually apply for it. So, for example, your father or grandfather's record, and they have to be have died, obviously, but you can ask for it, and then you wait and see if that turns up at some point,
Is
which it will do.
Is there a period of time after which those redactions expire? I would assume for living people. Or is there a here in the US where we hear a lot about redactions lately? Um, is there a period of time after which a Freedom of Information Act, which is our American Act, or do you have some kind of equivalent that would allow for an ordinary petitioner to say, "Hey, I want to know about my ancestor who was a spy during World War I or the Napoleonic Wars or something like that?"
In theory, it's 100 years for certain things. They can, if it's sensitive, make it longer.
Uh,
There are certain things that aren't ever made public, like the wills for the royal family, for example. You can never get those under the Freedom of Information Act in this country. But
uh-huh.
there are certain things that you can actually find, and it really does depend what your ancestor was involved in. Most
Mhm.
people won't have been anything like that. And so if you're getting a military record, you would probably get the majority of the information.
Yeah. Well, now, if you'll pardon my segue here, as part of both our own, pardon me, celebration of America 250, which is still a little awkward relative to Britain. But as part of that, in my research of a very serious, devout Quaker line in my family, uh, I discovered that the other side of the same family line became heroes on the loyalist side, which was somehow never reported in my family history. And now, through relatives at Roots Tech, I'm discovering that because this was a very large family, on the Quaker side, there are a lot of ancestors who are turning up in relatives at Roots Tech. One of those, and the Coffin family, became an admiral in the Napoleonic Wars after success in the American Revolution, which, of course, didn't quite turn out the way it was expected. But how would records from that era be available on the British side?
It really depends on what you're looking for.
Uh-huh.
Some things that might be in the Maritime Museum in Greenwich.
Oh.
That's where a lot of naval information is held. Um, some things might be in the National Archives. It really depends who the person is and what they were involved with.
Yeah, yeah. How about that? Now, you also mentioned something about New Zealand. Is that still in the cards for the
The,
conversation?
the siblings that I mentioned were the New Zealand ones. So they were
Ah,
the ones who served in World War One. So the two brother
oh,
soldiers, a sister was a nurse, and the fourth one, who I only discovered after I'd found the first three, he stayed in New Zealand at home and in the reserve.
yeah. So that's what I just love about this little community we've got here. Here you are with, pardon the expression, Greenwich Mean Time for genealogy. and we stretch out to all of us former colonists where we discover things about each other that are very similar in experiences from Chinese celebrations of the Chinese New Year in Bendigo, Australia, where gold was found. Rhymes with San Francisco Bay Area and gold being found here, and New Zealand and Australia. Hello, hello, hello. We haven't paused here to say hello to all of you in the community that are showing up. I see you, all of Australia and the U.S. and Canada showing up. It is still a little early for New Zealand and Australia, but as we stretch across our community, it is lovely. Please chime in with where you're coming in from, because we have a largest ever crowd today. I
Mm.
think some of that may be, as much as I'd love to celebrate what we're doing here. I think maybe we're starting to see a little bit of algorithmic changes going on over at Substack, because they've finally made some important changes in updating how all of Substack Live works. And I delighted to welcome more and more people coming in from different forms in using it, and through a lot of the stuff coming up to the Roots Tech conference. Delighted to see more and more people using it and sharing the joy of connecting across the way. And by the way, it looks like we've got a heady group coming in from California, just speaking for the hometown here.
And Kathy is in Alberta, Calgary.
Catherine in Alberta, Mama Carol down to my Southland, and Kristen to my Northland here. It is a delight to see all of you joining, and feel free to chime in here with your own questions, because we really do have such an expert here in genealogy research as a whole. And in next week's program, we'll be talking about specifically military research. And, in past episodes, we've talked about things like the metals. I still remember your discussion of artifacts and metals, and your mystery with an enamel piece that you had that you took to an expert, or
You
was it a
mean this
photograph?
one?
Yes, there
Now I
you
can do
go.
this because we're doing it on Substack. People can actually see what I'm showing. So that's one of my great grandfathers, Henry Bennett Edwards. And looking at that, I took it along and I actually enlarged it, and you can see there's a cap badge on there. And then I was told which regiment he was in and things like that. So that was a very kind gentleman by the name of Graham Bandy, who is an expert in military history. So he helped me with that one.
Well, there you go. I will take that episode and embed it into the notes for this one,
Yeah.
because I do think that kind of a connection is kind of where it's all about. And Kathy Stone out there in Calgary says, "Words out. Emma Explorers is great."
Thank you. And one other, you mentioned medals. So on my podcast, I interviewed the Orders and Medals Research Society a couple of years ago. And that was good because on Substack, there's also, it's in the archive now, but they gave us a document which explained about the different types of medals that you can get, why would it have been awarded, who would have got it. And the interview is freely available if anyone wants to listen to that.
Yeah, those combinations are really wonderful because, of course, it all sort of started with Journeys into Genealogy,
Mm.
your podcast, and the remarkable people that you have the opportunity to be connecting with. And the deeper stories that you bring out are always so, so inspiring. In fact, you had one recently with Lucy Reynoldson, as I recall, actually, a couple. Tell us a little bit about what you learned from that and what's ahead for RootsTech and what you're excited about.
So basically, I interviewed Lucy twice. So last year, she talked about family search, and full text search was the key takeaway from that particular one.
And of
And
course,
then,
she is with Family Search, right?
yes, she works for Family Search. She's the representative for the Nordic areas, which includes the United Kingdom and Scandinavia, basically, and some of Northern Europe. So yes, full text search. So again, my Emma Explorers went into that in quite a lot of detail. And also she talked about Roots Tech and what was coming up for Roots Tech. And if anybody is planning on going to Roots Tech, one of the takeaways was do your preparation beforehand. Think about who you want to listen to, put together a playlist, potentially reach out to people if you're going to go, because Relatives at Roots Tech is publicly live now. I got an email about it this afternoon. Apparently, it's been there for a couple of days. Barbara says she managed to get sort of secret access to it. But yes, it's publicly available. And I have 11 relatives. Barbara has a few more than me. How many?
200.
200. Yes. So Barbara and Kayla are in a competition as to
Oh,
how many.
she's way more than me, guaranteed, every time by an order of magnitude.
Yeah.
But that's, it's the connection, right? I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, so Relatives at Roots Tech is one of the things that's coming up. Look at your playlists. So work out which you want to actually watch, and also go back to it and have another look, because she says that some people don't make their minds up about whether they're going to allow them to be recorded until quite close to the date of actual publication, as it were. So keep an eye on things, and if there's one that you want to watch and you can't see it live, it may well be available for a number of days after Roots Tech finishes.
Right. So
And
don't
and
think.
and sorry, just sort of another thing. Look at the library. So the Roots Tech library is available, and they've got lots and lots of older videos, most of which don't really date. So have a look on there if there's a particular subject that interests you, and see which ones you can find.
Yeah, and I do love that tip about how the access may be changing now. And so I planned my playlist, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that's a great reminder to come back. The other thing I've started to see people do is sharing what they're going to be watching,
Mm.
sharing their playlists essentially for all of us out here watching it online. And by sharing your playlists, frankly, you're helping others see what they might have missed. I've already picked up on, events related to Quaker ancestors, for example, that I had somehow just like, because I mean, there's a lot there. It's kind of like going in and doing your research and then going back and looking at exactly the same document a year later and saying, how did I miss this?
You've just reminded me. Forgive me a moment. I'm just going to bring up another screen. I'm just going to move it, and then I want to just see who I've put in as my playlists. So I know that I've chosen a few topics. So mine are on the ideas of DNA. I'm interested in finding out what's happening with DNA. I'm also interested in AI. If there's new things coming out with AI, of course, there's always new things coming out with AI. So see what's happening with that. But also, I'm going to be looking at some of the things that are for individual countries. So if you're looking at researching records, for example, it might be in France, it might be in Germany, that sort of thing. So I've saved quite a few of those. So have a look out there and see what you fancy.
Yeah. And in fact, particularly in looking at documents in other countries, in languages I don't speak.
Mm.
And frankly, even in languages I do speak, I find it very difficult to read arcane language and specialized vocabulary that I never learned or whatever else. Here's one of these areas where AI has just, for mere
Absolutely
mortals
brilliant.
like me, made a huge difference. And so I really look forward to hearing the best practices from all of that. Also, I look forward to listening to people I know and appreciate and respect tell me what they saw was important about that. So it's kind of like it's secondary sources can be secondary sources can be tremendously helpful in understanding what we're seeing at RootsTech itself.
And to move on from Roots Tech slightly, in terms of AI, just to say what I've been experimenting with recently. So I've been experimenting. Thank you very much, Denise. Denise, you're brilliant. Denise recommended Google Gemini to me, and it's been amazing. So basically, what I've been doing is putting in things like a baptism record from France, and you upload the image and you say, translate this and transcribe it. And it will give you a complete transcription, but it will also give you more context. So it'll say what the life was like at the time for that person, or it picked out, for example, one I did for a client. It said, oh, the person was a master surgeon, which meant that they must have been sort of upper class, as it were, bourgeois. And sort of there were several people within the family that were like that. And so that they were, and one of the godparents was quite well off. So there's all these extra things, but Google Gemini, it's worth giving it a go and just putting some information in there and seeing what comes up. It's not 100% reliable. I did have a bit of an argument with it.
I love
and
this.
it's like, it gave me some results. It's like, no, that's not right. I gave it a doc. I uploaded something and said, find all my Scottish ancestors. And it came back with 21. It's like, I'm half Scottish. I've given you a list of 13,000 names. There's more than that in there. Oh, no, there's no. And it's like, yes. And that didn't work. That particular bit didn't work. But then I used, I think, was it Perplexity? Claude. I think I used Claude, and I gave it the same thing and said, give me give me my military ancestors, or give me my people from a particular place. And it comes back really quickly. So you can, if you want to, download a GEDCOM file from your family tree, give it to one of the AI things and say, find something for me. Yes, that's really helpful. And then you say, it says, do you want it in a CSV format, or do you want it as an Excel file? Oh, yeah, that would be good. And then
Very
you
nice.
can literally just
Can you
open
format it too while you're there?
Yeah. It will. It actually said you want me to format it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So AI is amazing. So I think use it with caution, obviously, but give it a go. You can't break it. Just plonk things in there and have a look and see what information comes out as a result of it.
You know, this this is just one of those things popping into my head, so I may regret saying this, but I wonder if there's a way to visualize your relationship with AI as you might visualize a relationship with a cousin you don't really know, and they're telling you all of these things to be true, and yet you want to come back. How do you consistently come back with confidence and say, actually, I wonder if that's true, in the sense that, they may very well be spot on and right in ways that you didn't know, but actually they may be a little bit hallucinating, right?
Yeah. So, for example, on the French things that I've uploaded, I understand French pretty well. I can read it. I know roughly what it says. So it's like, have a go. Just see what you come up with. Do we agree? And it did that, and that was just brilliant. I also I got a Bible. One of my clients got a Bible, and I went to see her yesterday, and she opened it up, and there's some handwriting in the front of it. We went to the back, and there was more handwriting in the back of it. And this is a King James Bible. The Bible itself dates from 1680. It's a massive tome. It's about 40 centimeters by about 60 centimeters by about 15 centimeters thick. Really big, and big leather binding, which needs a bit of restoration work. But opening this up, and so I basically took some photographs of these handwritten pages, and I gave it to Google Gemini. And 2 minutes later, I've got that. This is the family here. These are the children. This is whatever. And it's like, would you like me to investigate this further? And it's like, okay. And so it goes off and looks at something else, and yeah. So I sent it off to her. So it's like, there you go.
Wow. Yeah. And, the expertise to know the questions to ask, the expertise to know what to do with what you found is why the professional genealogist is a thing.
It's a combination, though. It's like you are the one that knows your family better than anybody.
Yeah.
So as long as you are relatively confident in the information you already hold, this should be able to expand that in some way. So you can then sort of look at it and say, well, does this look right? And it's like, if it does, and you're fairly sure that the source, you can confirm it in another way if possible, then yes, use it. If you think, not sure, park it, and you might find another source that confirms it, and then you can use it again in the future.
Yeah. At the same time, while we will know things like who would we have trusted or what their motivations might have been for sharing whatever kind of information in our own families, the reverse is also true in the sense that they very well may be gigantic holes that were either intentionally hidden or are just no one ever thought to explore. I gave the example of the patriots my family liked to talk about, but we didn't talk about the loyalist side of the same family because, we weren't going to talk about that. And I at least am going into all of this with a perspective of let's know what we can know and figure out how we feel about that separately. And it's been a really, anyway, not to get too serious, but that kind of relationship of opening all of this up is really key. Well, wow. Thank you so much for a fantastic session today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm thrilled for next week's program, and I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but I'd love to see any live streams you might consider doing, hosting now that it's all so whoop-de-doo and finally polished up by Substack to do for a larger audience during the Roots Tech program. And I've offered this to you. I'll offer it to really anyone here listening. If you have a program coming up for the purposes of the Roots Tech show, I'd be happy to add that into my calendar.
And we're doing a little ride along, aren't we? On the 2nd of March, I think it is, the Monday.
We are. But what I'm also saying is that if you want to be doing a ride along with somebody else, that's okay. I'm happy to see that happen. And I will be happy to add that to my own calendar because I'm just thinking, what can I do to help all of us there are far more people participating in Roots Tech remotely than there will ever be on site. And I think the more we can do to help each other in the distant configuration, the better, because it also helps us connect with each other in a special occasion sort of way. So that's what we're here for. Thank you all. I know everyone online joins me in thanking Emma for taking this time on a busy Friday evening before Valentine's Day, and making a little hay of what's coming up next week and all of the research that we have ahead during the Roots Tech season as it is, and I'll see you anon. Bust out the fancy words.
And I hope to see lots of people on Thursday.
You bet. Till then, thank
you. Bye.
Bye.